Welcome to my new channel, All Things Agriculture. It's been a long couple of weeks getting to this point, getting the equipment, getting the software, and I might not look if I'm really excited right now. It's like I said, it's been a long road, a lot of challenges, and to finally get here and be recording an episode is awesome. So I'm really, really excited. The channel will mostly be, as the title says, all things agriculture. Basically, just talking with farmers and people who work on farms or work with the farming community and agriculture throughout all the different spectrums, and just to get their story and let people see that farmers are a small percentage of the population, and we feed the entire country. 1%? They say 1% of the population feeds everyone, and I think this would be a good way for non-agricultural people to get to meet farmers and find out what our everyday challenges are, where we came from, why we do what we do, where we think the industry is going. So I hope that you stay involved, watch the episodes. Hopefully every week I'll put up a new episode interviewing a different person who, I have a wide range of people I intend to contact and see if they'd like to come on. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tyler Beck, a very good friend of mine. Thanks, Tyler, for coming on. You're my guinea pig. Get to be the first guest on the show, so if this crashes and burns, I guess you'll go down with me.
Shoot, I feel honored to be the first up on the board, and this will be the whole test run. We'll see how we go. I'll be back for the 100th annual anniversary episode, so we'll start it off here tonight, though.
Yeah, if we make it to 100, then I guess,
we're
we're doing something right, yeah. So, no, but anyway, so Tyler and I, we go back quite a ways. We met, it's been about a decade, 10 years ago.
We met at a track meet in Southern Cayuga, senior year, and little behold, we would know that would be the beginning of 4 years of undergrad, including a trip abroad to New Zealand, 2 or 3 other international trips, and many years of staying in touch after school. So now we're 7 years out, 8 years out?
Yeah, almost. It'll be 8 years this June. It absolutely flies. And the whole ironic thing is that we grew up down the road from each other, but we never knew each other.
If you Google Maps, probably has it like 3 miles apart, the two dairies, but we're just on different sides of the school districts, and happened to be going opposite ways and knew of them, but never got to meet him, and now it's it's in my wedding and my best friend to this day, and that'll probably never change.
Yeah, no, it's in we still do a lot together. We still only live 10-15 minutes. You and your wife Steph and your little boy Addison. It's always a lot of fun to hang out with you guys, and it's been cool to see you grow over the years as well.
So. And the farming community is a very tight-knit community, as you'll soon to find out. Everyone you probably have on here will know each other or all the guest speakers through someone or know them directly, and it's very cool how tightly knit the ag is. It's basically like one big high school.
Yeah, or one big fraternity, right?
That's for better or worse, probably.
Yeah, so we were both members at Cornell, the Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, National Ag Fraternity, and we had a lot of fun. And like Tyler said, there'll be many guests to come who also went the same path through AGR as we did. So it's you have a dairy. Your family has dairies.
Like I said, about 3 minutes from Eric. He's here in Groton, New York. We're in Dryden, so right down the road. We, to this day, have 2,000 cows. That's on 2 different locations. The original location was started up by my great-grandfather, and that would be in 1920. He started by actually sharecropping with the dean of the ag school of Cornell at the time. So basically how it works is he'd rent the land from the dean of the ag school, use some of the money he'd make it year after year to pay back as like rental, as like an option to buy type agreement. And then over time, he had enough money to start buying it out, and it became Beck Farms standalone business, and it's completely separated from the Cornell land. And then it got turned over to my grandfather and then my dad, and I'll be the fourth generation, or am the fourth generation now with my brother. So yeah, it's lasted many generations, and hopefully one day it'll be my son who's the fifth, and it'll go on from there. See to live a long, healthy life, the business.
Yeah, so wow, 100 years this year then. Century Farm.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it, because that's when they started sharecropping the land, but
Oh.
wasn't officially formed as a business until maybe, I think, the early 40s, because that sharecropping went on, I think, for a couple of decades. So it's 100 years of working it and turning it into what it is today. But if you're technical, I think we're like at 80 for the business itself. So
Okay.
close enough. We can round up.
So the original farm then is where the site is now in Freeville. That was the original sharecropping.
Yeah, if you went to the farm today, where the Parlor is, the original farm was probably about a half a mile down the hill from that, because in the 80s, there was actually a barn fire that forced us to either kind of retrofit and rebuild what was pretty much burned down, or just start new. And it sounds like I obviously wasn't there, but enough of it was damaged that it was just made more sense to start new and build something from the ground up you could make exactly how you wanted to, and just start over and have a clean board to work from.
So that would have been your dad and grandfather would have. It was your dad home.
Yeah,
at
he
the
was
farm?
basically just coming into the business, and that all happened, and so they decided together to collectively move and start fresh. And now what you see is what they kind of created, and just it's branched off and grown from. When my dad came home, I think it was about 200 cows, and now that site is 1,200, so it's grown by about 1,000 cows. And in 2013 is when we purchased the Virgil farm, which is about 9 miles from the home site, and that became our first satellite farm. So that has the other 800 cows to this day.
So is there just a business decision for purchasing the satellite dairy in Virgil, or was there?
Yeah, branching out at that point, a farm can only grow so big until it has to start expanding everything. And from that, you really have to look at what makes the most sense for a business. Because if you're looking at having to expand the parlor, the land, the calf and heifer program, more employees, your machinery, that turns out to be doing everything at once, which can be really expensive. So it might make more sense to look for an existing facilities that already has 80% of that in place. Then you can just improve and evolve on what's already there. So that was a smart move for us, and turned out to work out for the best, because being 9 miles away, you can share equipment, you can share people, and it's close enough that you can use a lot of your existing resources and make them more efficient by using them over a whole nother business, essentially, and doubling up. So it's been a great business model, and hopefully we can continue to do so. The satellite farm is kind of boxed in. It's got 2 roads on the side, a gully on the other side, and the 4 sides a neighbor's house. So we're pretty much as full as we can get over there. So we're happy at the growth and the size of the business, but our options are open to see what the future holds. No one knows in this world, especially in this year, what the future holds for anyone, let alone our little business. So we're going to just take it day by day, and no crazy plans at this point, just trying to survive and keep going every day, showing up.
Yeah, just kind of get through those. It probably still is a 3-year milk cycle, is now like a 6-month up and down joyride or roller coaster of craziness.
Year to year, good year, a bad year, an okay year. We thought that was enough of a roller coaster to ride, and nowadays it's month to month instead of year to year, or has been at least in 2020.
I remember we did some budgeting at the beginning of 2020. I think it was in early March before COVID. Like, COVID was coming. It was still in China, and I remember kind of like, wow, hopefully it just doesn't
We only
amount.
knew.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't amount to much, and it's just a short period. And we were doing the what's the milk price going to look like? And it's like, it's probably going to be a pretty good year. And about 3 weeks later, it was like, wrong answer.
Dropped multiple dollars, and it was like $1 a week. It kept dropping for week after week. And
Yeah, I think it bottomed out at, was it May? Milk was like $12,
under 13. Yeah, A rate at 13.
Where in February, March, the price was, I think it was pushing $20. It was significantly higher, $6-7, which you think about it. Imagine having a job where you get paid 50 grand a year, and then 3 months later, or 2 months later, your boss says, "Hey, yeah, you might want to take about 40% of that off, and that's all you're going to get paid from now."
We're doing the exact same work every day.
Yeah, and
the exact same expenses.
Yeah, so that's I don't know. I'm really hoping this kind of resolves itself within the next 3 to 6 months, hopefully. But luckily, it's kind of, for the most part,
people have figured it out and they made the shift.
And it's settled down. I mean,
the big confusion early on was you saw people on the news on the farmer end dumping milk, and in the grocery stores there was no milk. So people are wondering what the heck is going on. You have farmers getting rid of 70,000 pounds of milk off a tractor trailer going right down to the gutter into the manure pit, and then their neighbors at the store were going into the local grocery store and milk was sold out, and people couldn't put two and two together. But the reality was, back in March when this happened, and no one could predict the seismic shift, that you had all the schools that were consuming milk shut down, all these sports stadiums that were consuming tons of milk all shut down, the restaurants all closed for that good solid month or two there, and the whole production shifted from all those outside sources to the stores, and all these factories couldn't make that shift overnight from where milk was supposed to go and supposed to be bottled. So it was just this huge lag in reallocating milk to the right source, and that took a while, a few weeks to sort out. And that few weeks was that turmoil spot where you had farmers dumping because all the factories were bottled up and couldn't get milk produced in the right spot, and it was just a whirlwind. But if we have to, unfortunately, go back to lockdown, hopefully they've got it figured out and got everything sorted back out, that it shouldn't be as stressful this time around.
Yeah, I really hope not. It's it would be a disaster all over again. But that's the problem. It's like the farms continued to produce. It was just the whole logistics. Once it got off the farm, where does it go? Because one thing that's so tough with especially dairy is it's so perishable. And if you don't get that product moved in a timely fashion to a plant and get it processed, it'll go bad. It can you're only allowed to have milk in your tank on your farm for, is it 48 hours or is it set?
Yeah, it's no more than 48. I don't think.
Yeah, so like for our farm, we have a 5,000 gallon bulk tank, and milk has to get picked up every other day. So yeah, no longer than 48 hours, so the tank can get clean. So then milk's got to move off the farm, then it sits in a truck, and the truck has to get unloaded because that truck has more milk to pick up at another farm, either later that day or the next day. And yeah, it was pretty depressing when I saw some videos of farmers literally just opening the tank and letting it flow into like you said, into the gutter, and there's a day's worth of hard work literally down the drain.
Mm-hmm. Could be more literal.
We laugh, we're kind of laughing about it, but it wasn't, it's not funny, and heartbreaking.
Farmers are known for working off of their slim margins for decades, and this obviously doesn't help that by any means, when your slim margin turns quickly negative when it all goes out the door.
Yeah. So, but, so if you guys, looking onward, like you said, you're just kind of treading, just staying afloat, going with the flow. Is there anything down the road you see changing, or?
Just, waiting for things to stable out, obviously. Let all the uncontrollables work themselves out, because we're not going to do anything drastic in this type of environment. It doesn't favor any sort of businesses from putting themselves at risk, because everything else seems to be at risk at this day and age. Long term, 5 to 10 years. God, hope we are out of this by 5 to 10 years. Like I said, just like we were at the crossroads when we built our first satellite, that we have everything kind of maxed out on one farm, and now both farms, that the most efficient way to grow the business is look for probably a third site to be close enough you could use those resources and double up on labor and use some of the same machinery, and now work more ground and have a little extra labor tying in, and keep everything under one big umbrella that can be balanced off each other. But that's too hard to predict because you can't even predict the next week. So it's we're just letting it go one day at a time.
So with the having the two sites, in terms of, I know you share equipment. In terms of labor, like, are you floating between the two? Do you have one dairy that you work at and someone else is managing the other dairy, or is your father looking after one? How, like, what's the labor broken up? What's, between the two?
Yeah, so both farms have their independent Hispanic crews that just stay right at their own farm, have housing right at the farm, so they're there and don't have to leave. The American management team on the cow side, they go back and forth helping each other. I go to the home farm and help Lynn, who's our home farm manager. She comes to me and helps me with her check and hauling milk when I'm not there in Virgil. So we have a bunch of give and take in that department. And then the shop crew, they kind of like custom crop the satellite farm in a way. They come in when everything's ready, harvest everything, put it all in the bunks, seal it all up, and come back when the next round of harvest is ready, or comes to spread the manure tank and clean it out in about a week, and comes back when that's ready. So they kind of treat us like a hired client, where they come in, do the work, and then go back to the home farm because they're big shops set up at the home farm. So
okay, so you're almost, like you said, you're essentially like a custom harvester. All that that's how you use that. It's not like they almost, it's like they write a check, then the one farm writes a check to the other.
Yeah, we don't show it in the books, but essentially that's what they're doing. They kind of
Okay.
show up and do the work, and then go back to the main shop or the main farm where you invested in this big shop that you can pull in multiple pieces of equipment, work on them, and work really efficiently. We could have 4 or 5 different projects working next to each other. So if something breaks on the satellite farm, they'll take it back to the home farm to fix it and bring it back when it's all ready, because that's just the most efficient way to keep things moving.
So that'd be your brother's avenue then. Austin with the equipment.
He joined us back in October of 2019 now. Yes, 2019, I believe. Also went to Cornell, was 3 years behind me. And he specializes on the crop and manure side of things, while I'm mostly cows and labor on cow labor, Hispanic labor, fluent in Spanish, and that's a must nowadays, being able to speak to them, not just through hand motions, but actually talk to them so you can get things done instead of trying to play the guessing game all day long.
You don't do what I do, where it's like some Spanglish and pointing and trying to hope they understand.
Get away with that for so long, but when it's 2 a.m. and they're talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour with a problem, it's best to understand them so you can quickly know what to do.
And you aren't joking when you say you get calls at 2, 3, 4 a.m. because there's been times where we went, I think it was last winter, it was about a year ago now, we were at the Farm Bureau state annual meeting in Albany, and we roomed together because we were delegates voting for the county. And I'll never forget waking up, like I said, it must have been 3 a.m, and I hear someone whispering. I'm like, what is that? And then I realized they're whispering in Spanish. I realized it was you, and you were talking to some guy. You were trying not to wake me up, and I was like, oh, that sucks, and just rolled over, went back to bed. Is that like is that a nightly occurrence, or how often do you have to deal with night calls?
It always comes in waves for whatever reason. You could go 3 months with nothing, then you could go with a week with 3 calls or 4 calls at night, and it's just the luck of the draw. Right now, this past month has been one of those. Seems like every couple of days you're getting something you're bothered with, but then hopefully they'll turn around and you'll get nothing for 3 months. So, the parlor is the most expensive part of a dairy. So, from a business mindset, you want to maximize your most expensive part so you can make the most out of it and minimize all those, basically that labor cost, that investment in all those stalls and all that milking equipment. So these farms are trying to milk cows around the clock, which means for us, if we're milking cows 2 or 3 times a day, you're milking for 20 hours a day and then washing for the other 4 hours a day. So there's not a minute that parlor's not doing something. And so that means if it's running 24 hours a day, it has a chance to break 24 hours a day. And that's when your phone gets to ring when things don't quite go right. So
Or did you say quite a few? Can you solve a lot of the issues over the phone, or are you going in lots of the time?
that's where speaking fluent really helps. And now these Guatemalans have all smartphones just like we do, which is very helpful because you can video chat them so they can actually show you on the phone their problem, just like it's you're having a Skype conference. And you can make the decision right there if it's something that can wait till tomorrow, if it's something you can talk them through to push a couple buttons, or if it's something that they're not going to figure out and you got to go in. So it's probably, when you get a call, I'd say it's 50-50. If you're getting out of bed, putting on your clothes and going to the farm, or if it's something that can either wait or something they can finagle and get through a few more hours till it's time to actually go to work.
What's like the craziest, off the top of your head, the wildest or craziest calls you've ever, like, you get the call and you're like, what the hell what are they saying? Like, what, just crazy stuff.
When they're trying to explain cows getting stuck where they shouldn't be, whether it's somewhere they took a wrong turn in the parlor and they're halfway down the pit, or if they're in between us gates where they're kind of pinched and you got to be really creative and gentle with them to get them out. Or I look back at my phone at all the different pictures I take or they take and send to me, and over the years you can just be like, yep, I remember that. Oh, that was fun. I remember that. And you get some really funny looking stuff. But locally, these are all living, breathing animals. You need to work quickly, you need to work smartly, but usually everything comes out just fine. You just need to be on call essentially and never have your phone on silent, because you never know when something can go from smoothly to bad situation real quick. So you just got to always be available, or have someone that's available that you can rely on, that's close enough to come when those unfortunate things come up.
Yeah, because you never know when you'll get that call. And I get that to a point because, basically if something happens, I'm the first one that gets a call. My dad, he'll get a call, but it's only if I don't answer, if I'm gone somewhere.
Your backup.
But luckily, we're done milking by 8 at night, and we don't start up till 4 in the morning. So I have a good solid 8 hours where I know I won't get a call unless something crazy, really bad happens. Good thing cows can't text or call, because
it would never stop.
It would never end. Cows are very needy.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was trying to think. You showed me a video a while ago of some funny stuff that happened, or I don't know if it was really funny at the time, but looking at the video now, it's pretty hilarious.
It's funny about a month later, but if you're the one fixing or you're the one paying for it, it's not as funny. These Guatemalans come from essentially third world countries. They're your prime labor force, at least on the barn side, and that's simply because it's relatively long hours. They have to work outside all winter long, to a degree outside, as in the barns, where it's still the same temperature as outside. So essentially, it's when it's 20 degrees outside, it's 20 degrees in the barns, or maybe 30 degrees, a little warmer, but not that much. So
cows insulated a little bit.
Finding local help that wants to put up with all that, they look for things that are inside. They look for jobs that are less strenuous on the body. They look for things that might have a little higher paycheck or more benefits. So it's slim pickings when it comes to help on the farm. And every farmer, probably, if you ask them what his top 2 challenges is, labor would be one of those top 2. So for us, the best avenue was to look for Hispanic help, people who are here, very hardworking people, but looking for jobs so they can support their families. Basically take like 50% of their paycheck and instantly send it home to these third world countries that have small houses, dirt floors at some places, and are really struggling to live week to week. So they rely on these American family members, American help to make them pay their bills every day. Going back to the original question, they obviously are coming from places where they've never driven a skid steer, never driven a feed truck, and so when you put them in these situations, you try and train them the best you can, but it doesn't always come up too well.
Yeah, sometimes I call skid steers remodeling machines, because if you want to remodel a barn, it can happen really quickly when you get someone who doesn't know what they're doing. They start whacking poles off and smashing up gates, and
soon enough you don't have a choice. One of the best that 2 weeks ago, that video was Hispanic was done with the shift. It was about 3 a.m. He was filling up the skid steer, getting ready for the next guy's shift, and he must have fallen asleep in the skid steer for about 30 minutes. This is all from camera footage looking on later. Woke up, didn't really realize where he was, what he was doing, just put the seat down on the skid steer and started to drive off, and needless to say, he forgot that the pump, the diesel pump was still hooked up and filled the skid steer by that point, but still hooked up. So he just drove away and completely tore off the nozzle, the whole attachment feeding down into the tank. So looking on the footage from the camera film, if you watch in slow-mo, it's just diesel flying everywhere. It spilled out. The next morning we had to go and soak it all up with bedding and spread it and get rid of it before it basically just sat there for days. So we always want to make sure we clean messes up, even if it's not my mess. Still got to be responsible and make sure it doesn't turn into something more dangerous. So clean it up, and it's endless things. You can train as much as you want, but there's always stuff like that just happens. Part of it.
Yeah, when you showed me that video, I just lost it. You just see he drives away all frantically, and it's just like boom, and
just
diesel.
A firework of gas.
Man. Yeah, no, get that stuff cleaned up in a hurry.
And then you put them in a barn, like Eric was saying, where they have about 4 inches of clearance on either side of them, and they're you've hopefully trained them enough that they kind of know what they're doing, but it doesn't always work out as smooth as you'd hope.
Because everyone always, I mean, I've done it, I'm sure you've done it. We all hit stuff, and it's just a matter of not if, but when, or when's the next time you're going to hit something, because no one's perfect. And it's amazing. A lot of these guys, like you said, they come from countries where they've never operated any of this equipment before, and they hop on, they hit stuff, and, it might kind of drive you nuts, but at the same time, it's like, I did the same thing when I started. You can't say anything. It's just like, yeah, I know. It's just try not to do it again.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't become a repetitive, that's
the same guy 3 times in a week doing it, then you have a problem.
Then you might have a problem. Maybe scraping the barn isn't such a good job for that guy. But so I was wondering if you guys, like, down the road, do you plan to robots or Rotary, or have you heard about that Rotary going up in Western New York? It's all robotic.
Mm-hmm. We toured one in Germany, I think our senior year, where it basically it's a carousel. So like the rotaries that you have the humans operating nowadays, it basically takes out all the humans, and there's this mechanical arm that's doing all the work the humans would be doing, and dipping the cows and prepping them and attaching the units, and essentially it probably runs with one person.
I should put a link in the description to I'll put a link into a robotic rotary, or just a rotary in general, if people who aren't watching, who don't know what we're talking about, just to give them a little background. But it's pretty cool,
and also pretty expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. But I think from what I understand, the robotic rotary going up is different than the one we saw in Germany. It's all the unit. The unit goes on the cow, and she's prepped, dipped, milked, and then dipped again, and the unit comes off. It's like there's all these solenoids that divert milk and divert waste. It's and I guess when if a robot goes down, you can just unbolt, take some bolts off, and you can actually slide the entire robotic unit out, set it on the ground, and you can have a backup, and you slide it in, screw everything in, and then keep going, and then you can set the one off to the side and work on it and fix whatever, what solenoid or electrical wiring harness goes bad, and
not have any downtime.
Yeah, or limited. That's
When
well, hopefully it'll be interesting I can only imagine with all those solenoids.
Getting that call and having to pinpoint the exact one, you need a whole degree in that field in general.
Technology's great, but when it comes to electrical going bad.
Yeah. So for us, speaking those not in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, you're talking in the millions of dollars, for multiple millions of dollars for an investment like that. So it's not anything worth thinking of now or in any sort of future. I think talking robotics, because year after year minimum wage is going up, overtime rules are coming into play, the thresholds for overtime are eventually coming down, so it's so many factors working against your standardized labor. But if we were going to do anything robotic, we'd wait a little longer for someone to perfect a robot on a parallel track. So parallel means all the cows line up side by side to get milked, instead of on a carousel, which is a big circle. They line up And basically, it's a line segment, so they line up from we have 20 cows on a stall, so we milk 40 cows on at a time, 20 on one side, 20 on the other side. So they walk in single file, they make a 90-degree turn, and then they line up side by side by side. And then if they could design, I think they've thrown around ideas before, but no one's perfected it, design a robot that runs on a track just back and forth and goes up and down that parallel and can somehow have a mechanical arm that does all the same things of prepping the cows and dipping the cows. That would be the easiest way to use our existing parlor to retrofit it into something robotic to save labor. But that's not coming down the road anytime in the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think, or 5. You're talking.
Yeah, but we're out of ways before that. Because basically the only robotics that really exist are, well, for milking that I know of, are that rotary going in, and then just the single stall out in the barn. You don't even have a parlor. You have just a barn where stalls and alleys and where the cows eat and sleep and lay. And out in that barn, there's actually a single stall where cows come, go into a little, it's almost like a side room, get milked, and they walk back out and they go right back out into their pen. Like I said, I'll link some videos so if people want to kind of see exactly what we're talking about. Like I said, for the ones who don't know, you can get an idea of what we're referring to. It's amazing stuff, though. I mean, we both know people who have the single stall robots, and some people, I think they all really like them. It's just getting the cows used to using them can be a nightmare. But once it's up and going, the guys seem to really like them. So I think down the road, for my sake, I can definitely see them in the future at some point. Just I'm a lot smaller, so Tyler, like he said, he's 2,000 on 2 sites. We're about 300 on just a single site. So putting in 4 single stall robots is pretty easy for us to do compared to having to figure out robotics on a 2,000 cow dairy. It can be done, and it is done, but it's just there's a lot more
upfront investment that dairies usually aren't known for making those grand purchases, just because it takes so much to get going. And then if you have a bad year, then you could put yourself in a really dangerous position to stay afloat. And a lot of farmers are generally pretty conservative, that they don't like to take that sort of risk. But there are ones that out there have made it, but it's scary, especially when you have a year like 2020 where in January it looks great, and then 2 months later, basically the worst hell you could imagine starts to come true and things come crashing down.
So I guess even beyond dairy, what kind of other stuff do you like to do? I know you're
beyond dairy.
I know you're an avid skier.
My father's an avid skier. He's I've been off again through the years, and now that I'm not running as competitively as in high school, it's a little less of a danger. So yeah, I've been on again more so than not, and yeah, it's beautiful. We have a home in Montana, and it's a great getaway from the farm for a week or 5 days or something to get out to the true countryside, the true mountains, and see what that whole lifestyle is about. Because it's a thrill out there. It's another world. You're going down pitches that you wouldn't be comfortable walking down at times, and now you have 2 skis on your foot. You're trying to stay up on balanced and go down what that mountain is. I think 50% black or double black diamonds. I think the stat I saw, it was something crazy like that, where it's you gotta be careful which chairlift you get on, because you go up one and the only way down is a double black diamond, so you better be careful. What you're getting into before you step foot, because it can be dangerous.
They don't give you they don't have like an easy trail for people who are stupid and go up the wrong chairlift. Like,
nah, I think that's where Darwinism, survival of the fittest, comes in. If you're not smart enough to avoid the double black chairlift, you deserve to or fight your way down.
If you can't read the warning, expert only.
They have those.
Yeah, they have to. I mean,
it's a liability, but that's what makes it great. They have everything. They have the great green groomers for the small kids, all the way up to a tram lift. You go to the tippy top peak where you're over, I forget what the footage, over 10,000 feet up there. Is it 8, 10, 11? It's up there. So it's a long way down. Our local ski mountain here, Greek Peak, it probably takes 2 minutes to get to the top to the bottom. But if you were going to go to the top to the bottom in that mountain, you're probably 40 minutes of skiing or something to go to the tippy top. It's
40 minutes
to go all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. Yeah, you're at least a half hour and probably pushing 40 minutes if you're not racing down. It's 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 a different world.
Well, you have a gondola. Those are pretty quick,
Yeah,
aren't
tram.
they? Or
No,
yeah.
just ski down. Yeah, once you get to the top, the skiing
It's-
time to get down, I'm saying is probably
Wow.
30 to 40 minutes because you go down probably halfway to the mountain and then you go hit the groomers to go the rest of the way. And yeah, it's exhausting when you going down to pitch where it's trying to stay afloat and your verticals like this where you really are working to stay within the terrain. That yeah, you're not just skiing the whole thing and going from top to bottom. You have to take multiple breaks, no matter how good a shape you're in, and catch your breath because it's a full body workout. Skiers are very athletic.
Yeah, that's nuts. So you're probably making your own. You make your own trail coming down when you're that high up. It's just fresh powder, and you just go. Or is there a general direction, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, if you're
It's only one way down. You know,
gated
you're at the
enough as
peak.
my dad, you know exactly where all the nooks and crannies are, where not only the locals essentially know about. And you can, on a snowy day, you could probably find fresh powder in multiple places that no one's really done. So it's just a giant playground.
Jeez.
It's pretty wild.
And the home you guys have out there, that's actually it's on the mountain, right? It's on the
close to the base, yeah. So basically, you don't have to take a car to the mountain. You can just put on your skis and basically ski down part of the driveway, which is usually plenty snow covered that you're not going to wreck anything, and then ski right to the chairlift that'll take you right up. So it's basically that's what he pictured as a retirement home years ago, and a few years ago we made it his reality, and now that it's we've invested in it. It's in the family for generations to come. So we all have to be skiers at this point because, yeah, how could you not take advantage of such a cool opportunity, such a cool environment? And, yeah, blessed to have a place out there that we can get away from the hectic day-to-day farm lifestyle. So this year I have a 2-year-old, and hopefully he can get skis under his foot and learn the balancing act and do the pizza down the magic carpet. And he'll have good trainers with my dad and stepmom that he should be a superstar by age 3.
Is that what's the age you can start teaching?
I think 2 to 3 is common. I mean, it's like any sport. All the kids that start in that age are the ones that grow up being completely nasty at it and just can do anything. So yeah, it's not out of the realm.
So skis and skates too, right? You have him.
Yeah,
Is he skating yet?
We're hockey fans, and we took him once this winter. It was about a month ago, a little before Thanksgiving, and it was about what you'd picture a 2-year-old on skates going. It's basically we held him up, and he sprawled around for about 5 minutes, and then was done with it while we skated for a little longer. But it'd be, yeah, definitely want him to do something. We can't force him to do anything. It's whatever he wants to do, but it's definitely not going to be sitting in front of a TV screen or any sort of screen for hours on end. We're a traditionally very outgoing and active family that we love to do things outside and get involved with teams. I think sports are huge for any sort of development with kids and teach you so many different things that you can't learn in the classroom. So, yeah, he'll have his options, but he'll be choosing one of them because there's so many benefits from that sort of activity. It's so sad to see all those shut down this year, but hopefully come 2021 we can start to get back to some sort of realm of normalcy.
Yeah, because you guys are, avid Cornell, you and Steph. The whole hockey, I assume the hockey season it's going, but you guys obviously can't go this year.
Yeah, and actually the Ivy League, they shut it down, so no Ivy League sports. So
there's no hockey at all then.
It's going, but we're any Ivy League schools are sidelined, so that's even more heartbreaking that the sport you love is going, but your favorite team can't play. So it's the biggest teaser of all. It's feels so bad for the players and the coaches and the seniors especially.
And last year they were ranked. Were they number 1 going into? They were about to go into the tournament, weren't they? Like they had a chance to win it all last year, didn't they?
The guys and girls hockey teams, were both number 1 in the beginning of March when everything started coming crashing down. And the girls never won a national championship. The last time the guys won it was 1970. So we were ready for a historic season, and it couldn't have been worse timing. They had their best chances in decades, and it got ripped apart. But that's to some people that probably seems minute because people are losing lives and loved ones over this. So this is that's what affects us. But I'm sure there's many other horrible stories out there. So it's all perspective. But.
It's just a game. Life goes on. Yeah, it's one thing when you lose your job. That's a completely. That's for real life. So, but. And you were, growing up, you were a hell of an athlete, runner. And I remember I used to, like you said, we met at a track meet. our senior year, and you ran the 800. As funny as it sounds, I ran the 800. I remember, I wasn't even fast enough to run in the same heat as you because you were typically like either number one or number two at every single meet.
Well, yeah, skiing wasn't my real strength. I wanted to find something I could thrive at, and running is what I quickly found. 7th grade was something I was able to stick out from the crowd. And yeah, it was a great escape from high school stress. It's a big, challenging time for everyone going through so many changes. And that was my escape and something I could thrive in and could really develop in. And so it was my getaway. And yeah, it worked out great because it took me to a bunch of state meets and got to meet all my best friends through the track program and had a great coach and pushed me hard to break physical limits, mental limits. Was great for time managing school and athletics because when you go to college, that's something you're definitely not going to have your parents or your coach to help you with. You got to learn that on your own to balance balance your academics with whatever other extracurricular activities were. And Eric, in my case, was that and fraternity shenanigans. So it was a fine line we had to balance between academics and fraternity activities, which was also probably one of the best experiences of my life. That brotherhood is something that those people are going to be probably closest to me more so than anyone I'll probably meet for the rest of my life. So AGR has done wonders and wonders, and I'll continue to support and give back to that organization because I've gotten so much from it over the years. And yeah, a great group of guys. Brings a bunch of guys that have a common core together, and all family of within agriculture, all have some ties to agriculture, so they really share a strong bond there, and it only grows the 4 years you're there with that group of guys. So great times.
Yeah, we could fill up a lot of time telling stories of the AGR days, but I think we'll leave those on the shelf for right now. But no, it's really cool when you think about it, how you're in this in this fraternity with guys, and not just dairy, but also all different types of agriculture, agritourism, wineries. One guy was in methane digesters. Hopefully I'll have him on here. I got to give him a call. And it's crazy when you meet all these people and then literally you can call any of them at any time if you have an issue or a problem and say, hey man, like, I want to pick your brain about this or that. Because all farms, all dairies aren't the same. We all operate differently, and yet we're able to take strengths from each other. What does your farm do well? What is your farm weak at? And we can, it's kind of cool how you can collaborate with one another. I know it sounds funny to people who aren't involved in agriculture or farming, but I remember a lot of late nights sipping on drinks and talking about what are you going to do on your home farm when you go home, or all these. It sounds really funny, but that's what we did lots of nights when guys would just sit around and chat, or we'd watch YouTube videos of farming fails, or it's just it sounds so stereotypical farming, but it was like you said, it was the best 4 years, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Yeah, it was my parents, I think, that told me that your high school friends are great, but they'll have nothing on your college friends. Those are the friends you're going to have for decades on end. Those are the ones you'll be going to weddings in and be at reunions, and they're the ones that you'll really remember and actually stay in contact with. And I think I have 2 high school friends that I've stayed in contact with now that we just had our 10-year high school anniversary. We didn't have any sort of event, but I think there's 2 people now that we're 10 years out that I can still probably talk to month to month. And on college end is can't even count. Don't even know.
Yeah.
10-fold, 20-fold, 40-fold to that number. So it doesn't even compare.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I remember my mom telling me the same exact thing. She said, your high school friends you'll be friends with, but the college friends are the friends you'll have for life. And I was like, no way. Cause I was involved in sports growing up, football team, really close to a lot of guys. And I still am. I still talk to some guys that I went to high school with, not as often as, it's crazy to sound, as often as I see like you or any other Cornell guys. And it's just, I don't know what it is, but you you don't grow apart from them, but it's just, I don't know, you just lose those 4 years. You're so connected. I think the one thing about college, especially being a fraternity, is you see everyone at their highs and their lows, and it's when you go to high school, you can just, for the most part, you can be in a good mood and kind of be the same person every day. But when you live with people, or like we room together, there's days where you aren't having it, and you're gonna you might show a nasty side, and you see that, and it's like, and then you see you're at your happiest, and it's pretty, it's just a bonding experience.
It's unique because obviously your family, your blood relatives are obviously the famous quote is you can't choose your family, but this is a type of family you actually can choose because you can rush fraternities and you can pick a group of guys who you think you'd fit in most. So essentially you're choosing a brotherhood, and they become just that, a brotherhood, and you essentially get to choose a second family, and you really have no idea at the time how much that'll change your life, not only your college experience but your life. And it's a huge blessing. I know fraternities get put in the news all the time about these bad eggs and these bad situations that unfortunately happen, but it's such a small percentage of the overall benefits that are just endless that you can name for bringing a group of guys together that share a common theme that can branch and grow and benefit from each other and evolve those 4 years. It's uncomparable to probably almost anything I could think of.
Yeah, no, it's
It's not like farming where a couple bad videos or examples come out and they go viral and it puts a bad rep on the whole industry. But in general, 99.5% of the industry is doing so much good, and that 0.5% puts such a bad rep on everyone else that it's so sad that they get all the attention, where every day there's just so much good going on and so much right going on that it just goes unnoticed.
Yeah, and every industry, I don't care who you are, they all have their bad apples. There's
Look at the police this year.
yeah,
That's
police,
a perfect example.
Yeah,
No one could live without a strong police force, and just look how much crap they're going
exactly.
through. It's such a sad situation.
There's bad apples in every bunch. That's just unfortunately the way it is. Like you said, the police, or even there's bad doctors out there, but 99% of doctors are great, and it's no different than farmers. 99% of farmers are great. You get that 0.5 to 1%, if that are rotten. And luck, the one thing with the way the margins are, and especially in dairy, but across the board in agriculture, is you can't do a awful job and mistreat animals and do all that, because you wouldn't stay in business. You can't beat up or abuse the thing that makes you money. It's like, I like to tell people, it'd be like working for Apple and working on the manufacturing floor and telling your employees to throw every 10th iPod on the ground and step on it and then throw it in the box and send it. You can't do that for very long before you start getting so many sent back, or it's
you're gonna be out of business.
Exactly. And it's the same thing with cattle. You can't mistreat your cattle like that, because they're your money makers, and it's going to come around to bite you. And it's just like you said, there's a lot of videos out there that people post, and it's they're I don't like to see them either. They're awful stuff, but it's like, that's not what we do. That's not what we learn to do. That's not why we do it. I mean, this is kind of a question I wanted to ask you. Like, why do you do dairy? Like, why didn't you do something else? If you could have done anything else, would you?
Never grew up actually knowing that. People grow up, and by age 5, they're like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And you might think that as a kid, playing with your toy tractors and sandbox, but going into college, I was not set on that. I don't think I was set on it till sophomore year, when I really got to know and really get embraced in the AGR Brotherhood and the other Cornell Animal Science classmates, and really understand that the people in the industry, this is a great example of the people I'd be dealing with and what they represent. And going home, I think that first summer was the first time I really went home and had a lot of responsibility on the farm, and realized that it's not a job where you watch the clock waiting for the minutes to tick that by till it's 5 o'clock. You're so engrossed in what you do that a 12-hour day can feel like 2 hours many times. Today, to this day, I have 12, 14-hour days, and it feels like I just woke up sometimes before it's time to go home, and it's when you just get so engrossed and so in love with what you do, it's that's when you know you've found it. There's so many statements or quotes out there. Like the famous one is, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And probably so many farmers feel that exact same way. It sounds so hard, the elements and the hard work it takes to do something like that for the small margins they make at the end of the day. But for so many of them, it doesn't feel like work because it's what they love to do and they can't envision themselves doing anything else. I know I was always loved statistics and math and finance to a degree, but with farming, it's so unique that you can put all those things together because in one single day, you're a financial consultant, you're a veterinarian, you're an electrician, you're a mechanic, you're a manager of people. It's 20 different hats you have to put on in the matter of a 12-hour day, and it's so unique that you can't go anywhere else and I think find that same sort of variation that it keeps you on your toes, and that's what makes these days go by so quick and makes it so fun and challenging. Half of the challenge is the fun. So, yeah, that's what I figured out through college and the people around me, these Eric and my other 50 brothers at AGR, knowing that those would be the people I'd be working next, solidified that this is for me. This is what I want to do.
If I could give you, if I told you farming was off the table, you aren't going to do it, what would you do? Like, what do you think would have been a different career path? Just curious, see what you'd say.
Some sort of statistician. I always love numbers, tracking numbers, patterns in numbers. It sounds so dull, but it seems fun. And they make a lot of money, I think. Good statisticians, I think, do pretty well for themselves and support their families. That's always been important to not make a lot of money in a sense of material way, but just to have a safekeeping for my family and always make sure my family comes first. So that's a way to make sure they're always given the best life possible. And that's farming. That's how we've had to kind of slowly grow over the years because we always want to do what's best for our family. So we started at a couple hundred cows. And if you don't diversify or do something unique, I know you're in the grazing not industry, but the grazing category, that you have a great way of cutting costs and doing things way cheaper and way easier than a lot of people. Maybe not easier is the right word, but doing things uniquely that you don't have to buy these thousands of dollars of feed bills because you can use, you have a strategic setup with land that you can use around you. We don't have that. So we had to grow our business because we have such a tight margin off of that. You have to have a lot of things over a small margin and eventually make a big margin that we can live off of and give our family a decent lifestyle. So that's how we've had to grow our business over the years. And the large farms get a bad rep in the factory farm title, but it's this business environment that's causing these farms to go big. All these regulations, these overtime rules, these minimum wage increases are all reasons farms have to get bigger because they have such a small margin they're working off of, and they're getting smaller with every regulation that passes, that they have to grow and be more competitive to basically eat up all these little costs so they can still live to see another day.
Because I mean, every year if you if you run the numbers and if you essentially stay static in your cow numbers or production, or if you don't reduce costs, your costs are always slowly but surely just, insurance, just, overhead, it goes up over time. Taxes, insurance,
last year your tax
labor
bill went down.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't stay above, eventually, if you have a profit here, what happens? That, that cost eventually eats it away over X amount of years, and suddenly, oh, we're losing money. So that's, it's hard for people to, I think people just don't realize the stuff we have to deal with in terms of trying to stay afloat. And that's a problem when your milk price goes like this
overnight, especially this year.
And if it's not, if the milk price just steadily increased every year, we wouldn't have to do that because we'd always have that margin would always be there. And it's,
look back now, the stats showing like the 90s, the milk price is almost the same as what it was at certain times in 2-3 decades ago, and your costs have double and triple folded. So it's a tough gig these farms have to survive by, and that's why the average The average size of a farm has gone from 50 cows to 500. I don't know the numbers, but they're this just look at the graph, and the average size of the farm has just gone exponentially up just to survive. Because if not, they would be sold off because just it's not possible to do the math and make it.
Yeah, and it's sad when if you got a guy who wants to go out and even he's like, yeah, I want to start a 50 cow, 100 cow tie stall. Like he wouldn't make it. He probably wouldn't be able to sell his milk to anyone because with just everything going on, milk is so tight. It'd be impossible to get a market to sell your milk in. And B is just the numbers don't work out unfortunately anymore, and that's why you see these small farms going out and then they don't have another generation to take over. That's a lot of it. I remember when we were over in Europe, especially Germany. One thing in Europe that's kind of neat is they're very robotic and automation driven. Remember they had a lot of robotic dairies. They had robotic feed pushers. They had one place had a bedder. Remember, it was like a trolley that ran in the rafters of the barn and would drop sand into the stall.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember who asked the one farmer if it was Mike or one of the students, but they said, why invest in all of these robots? And they said, we're trying to convince the next generation to come back. And that's true. It's like, I think in Europe they struggle with that. Where I remember they also said when we went to Germany that having a busload of college students showing up to visit a farm is very rare over there. And so it was kind of, I guess I don't know if it's just in the United States there's a lot more, we're just more rural. There's a lot more interest in agriculture across the board for people going home. Or, I mean, I guess at the same time I said a lot of, there's a lot of farms that gone out because people haven't returned home, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
I'm kind of tangenting.
No, you just look at the graph over the years and how so many farms have gone out just because they couldn't make the financials work. 100 years ago, everyone either had a farm, their grandparents had 2 or 3 cows, or their neighbor had 2, 3, 5, 10 cows. And nowadays, it's 1 out of 100, 1,000 people has a farm. I mean, it's just gone crazy, the ratio of how many people are actually directly involved in agriculture. And because of that, so many less heirs are around that are exposed to it and want to get involved in it just because they don't know what it's about. They don't like the lifestyle. They have other options. And so having an heir to basically a succession plan to pass on your pride and your even working for your whole life to the next generation is a huge part of every business. And it's so sad when you have these generations that either don't have kids or they have all kids that have moved off the farm and doing other things, and they either have to find someone that out of the family wants to buy their farm or bring in an employee as a partner to an extent. Or it's farms take a lot of pride in being able to pass on their life's works to their next generation, and it doesn't happen as much as it used to just because there's so many other options out there that nowadays are a lot less work. But it's very special when you get someone that wants to do this and take on the responsibility of the family jewel essentially, and continue it on.
Yeah, and you have that, what they call it, the three generation curse or whatever. The first one builds it, the second one maintains it, and the third one comes crashing down. Just that's what people say. It's very rare for any business to pass on generation to generation. It's hard to do. So it's unique when you get to see a lot of farms out there who have. I mean, we went to school with a guy who, their farm was started back in the 1700s.
He's the 9th generation?
Yeah, something crazy like that. It's like, wow, that's.
Yeah, because the first generation puts all the sweat work into it. The second generation's old enough to remember that work, so he sees it all going into it, and then the third or fourth, more or less, maybe gets handed to them a successful business, and maybe they don't treat it as respectfully because they don't know all what went into it, and they buy things, or their head's a little too big and they go too far the other way with some of these big automatic parlors, and they get too far on the hole with these crazy investments, and maybe things come crashing down. So hopefully we can avoid that curse and keep things running strong. And You just got to know the markets, know the financials, and know where you sit and what you're capable of, and be probably on the conservative side, especially in years like this, and just take what's given to you and do the best you can with what you got. You're the third or fourth as well, right?
I'm the fifth.
You're the fifth. You got one more, so it's even further along.
Yeah, so our dairy was bought back in 1899. Family came over from Ireland during the potato famine, and they settled, I think it was in Glens Falls, New York, which is, for those who don't know, I think it's up near Albany, in that area. It's a couple hours away from where I live now in Groton, and they bought the farm, and yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of history. The original farmhouse was built in the early 1800s, so that's just about 200 years old, just about. When my parents remodeled it 20 years ago, they took one of the walls out, and we found a Reader's Digest from the 1940s. Someone had stuck in the wall. So before we patched the walls up, we actually made our own little time capsule. I was only probably 7 or 8 at the time, and we all wrote up a little blurb about who we were and put it in a box and set it in the wall. And who knows?
Hasn't been open to this day.
No. And I know what wall it's in. Like, I could point and say it's in that wall, but it'll be interesting to see down the road who
discovers it.
Yeah, I mean, it could either be a Carey, or who knows, we could be long gone and someone else has it. I mean, like, we found, this is kind of wild, my dad found old tombstones of the family who owned the dairy before we had it back in the 1800s, and their last names were Diamond, and some of these tombstones were the kids, they're like 3-4 years old, who died. It's just like, wow, you see stuff like that. It was just like in the woods somewhere. I think we were clearing out a hedgerow and they found them. Hopefully we didn't, disturb their wherever they were buried, but we had no idea they were there. So it's it's cool. There's a lot of history, and like you said, the same. Unfortunately, you had that barn fire. That's not a. Hopefully, something we never have to
no
deal
one got
with.
hurt,
ever.
and it probably went as best as it did because everyone was safe and the animals got out. So it's just had to start over and hit the reset button and do the best you can with what the situation was made of.
Yeah. So, kind of to close this out, put you on the spot here, but this, like I said, when we started, this channel is hopefully to educate people and show people who aren't familiar with what we do, what we do, how we do it, why we do it. So I guess if you had one thing that you'd like people to know, that, what is something that you do or that we do that is, that you think is maybe misrepresented in the public, or people just have a bad understanding of?
Food security probably comes to mind. There's so many different classifications of milk, whether you're conventional, non-GMO, organic. I could go on and on about all these different types, but those are probably the three most popular at this day and age. All milk is safe that is in the store. It gets tested. I can't tell you how many times. And yes, we use antibiotics on our farms. And yes, the milk from antibiotics can't be sold. So if we have a sick cow, we have to basically separate her out, treat her, and put her in a pen that's designated to get dumped down the drain, just like we had to do in March with our whole herd. But every day, these farms that have cows that you have to treat get isolated in a separate group, and that milk goes down the drain and it can't be sold. And every day when the milk truck driver comes to the farm to pick up your milk, he tests the milk and makes sure it comes up clean, that there's no traces of antibiotics. And if there ever is, you have to do what farms did back in March and dump that entire days or 2 days worth of product down the drain, and you lose all of that income and don't get reimbursed for it in most cases. So it's in the farmer's best interest to never have a screw up and do the best they can. So it's foolproof. It gets tested on the farm, it goes to the plant, gets tested again, then it gets turned into a powder or liquid milk or ice cream or butter, and then that gets product tested as it goes out on the market. So you hear farms that use antibiotics, that don't use antibiotics, and there's so much scare or hype in that non-GMO farms, GMO farms, these genetic modified farms that have Roundup Ready corn and this and that, and all this stuff has so much science into it that no matter what the label is on the bag that you're buying at the grocery store, there's so many benchmarks that all these products have to go through to be safe for human consumption that it's sad to hear all this bad rap, and just to have everyone have a strong sense of food security that what they're buying at the grocery store is past so many levels of checkpoints that no matter what your preference is, organic, conventional, non-GMO, it's all extremely safe for you, and none of it has all this bad, hyped up crap in it that people are saying is bad for you. It's, for the most part, it's just trying to put a good name on all these different farmers. They all have slightly different business models, but they're all trying to do the same thing in the end of the day, which is feed an ever-growing population of how many billion people are going to be on this planet in 2050. It's an exponentially growing number. That's a curve that slowly started to grow up, and then in the next 30 years, it's basically going to go straight up. So it's an incredible feat that these farmers have to do to feed the world, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. And whether what the label is on the product, they know they have to make a good product and a healthy product because it's going to go through 20 different tests before it comes to a grocery store or your plate at the restaurant, and it has to pass all those tests or it'll get thrown out and they won't get paid. So just everyone needs to know, no matter what your beliefs are, no matter what you choose to invest in, to put in your bodies or feed your kids, that all food is safe and healthy, and that's why it's there for you. And to have faith in what we do every day, and we do it for millions of different reasons, but it's there and it's for you, and we hope we can keep doing it for years to come, and that we can survive this tough pandemic that's created these margins even smaller. But we'll come together as a crew and continue on.
I think that's a great way to end it. We have the safest and most secure food supply in the world, and we'll continue to do that every single day, and farmers will always show up to do what we got to do. And so, Tyler.
Thank you. Do you have an introduction on who you're bringing next week, or is that yet to be determined?
Yet to be determined. I have a couple names in the air. I don't want to. I want to get this one done and out the door before I
get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I better make sure I can get this on YouTube and get it up and running before I start lining up more people. So I have people in mind. I'll put it that way. So yeah. So thanks for watching. Please stay posted, and I'll be posting, like I said, hopefully every week. Like, subscribe, share it, comment. If you write a comment, I'm definitely going to read it because I'll probably get like 50 views. So go ahead and write whatever feedback you think is appreciated. So thank you, everyone. And Tyler.
Thank you.
Great.
And appreciate being the guinea pig, and love to come back someday. And
yeah. We'll get you back on for an update. So
very good. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.